his desk to a new location to perform for his thousands of screaming fans and voters. To George Bush, he's a demagogue awash in oil money. To this audience, he's a hero, savior.
Cuando yo quieras devolver, no serás tú quien lo decida.
And wannabe Frank Sinatra.
Welcome to the latest edition of South American Idol.
Why are these people treating Chavez like Elvis gone Latin? It's not just the oil money from American drivers, it's how Chavez has spent these oil riches.
Let's go see what the money from the gringos in their SUVs bought.
In barrios like this, there's a happy bounce. Chavez has finally tackled the health and education problems suffered by Venezuela's poor. He's imported 15,000 Cuban doctors and teachers, too. Before Chavez spread the oil wealth, 55% of the population lived in poverty. Now poverty is down by a third, and 1.5 million people have been taught to read. In this building, we found a new Cuban clinic, and I ran into a resident who had picked up English while working in Trinidad.
We are the only country on this planet that has so much, or have so many changes in the social aspect. Medical attention, free. We can never get free operations, x-rays, medicines, or education also. People who never knew how to read and write, now know how to sign their own papers and everything.
This is Arturo Quiron. He invited me upstairs for a cold one. Chavez, he says, has changed the way the oil money is handled.
10, 15 years ago, Carlos Perez, there was a lot of oil money here in Venezuela. The oil boom, we call it. Okay, here in Venezuela, there was a lot of money entering the country, but we didn't see it.
When our BBC team was here in 2002, people weren't so happy. A coup and a strike by oil company managers left the economy in ruins, and Chavez's long-term survival in doubt.
But then, a cowboy rode out of the north and saved Hugo Chavez.
In 2003, George Bush invaded Iraq, and when mission accomplished became mission impossible, oil prices tripled.
The explosion in the price of oil dumped $50 billion into Hugo Chavez's lap, most of that from the United States.
But it's not only Venezuela's poor who are enjoying Hugo Chavez's oil-pumped largesse. Everyone on the continent is trying to jump into Santa Hugo's sleigh.
Hugo Chavez has called all the bankers of Latin America together, and when Chavez speaks, they listen. The financiers were treated to a history of Venezuela's central bank in song, and the continent's central bankers were happy to hum along. Chavez has handed out billions to their treasuries. He's spending way more than George Bush in Latin America. And here's the man who actually writes the checks, Chavez's central banker, a very popular guy. In fact, Chavez wants to completely eliminate the International Monetary Fund and replace it with an International Humanitarian Fund. I caught up with Mr. Checkbook. Can I get one more check, too? You're giving out checks to all these countries. Can I get a check?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Okay. Ecuador got $250 million. Brazil got $4 billion. Argentina got $4 billion. No wonder these guys showed up.
Chavez is giving money to the poor of his nation and our allies in Latin America. He's won 6 elections since 1998, has no secret prisons, and he hasn't invaded anyone. And he's more than happy to sell us all the oil we want. So why is it that George Bush and his friends cannot wait for the opportunity to eliminate the president of Venezuela?
We have the ability to take him out, and I think the time has come that we exercise that ability. We don't need another $200 billion war to get rid of one, strong-armed dictator. It's a whole lot easier to have some of the covert operatives do the job and then get it over with.
What's their problem with Hugo Chavez? Maybe this is the key.
According to an internal study we got our hands on from inside the U.S. Department of Energy, the next oil kingdoms, if the price of oil stays high, will be Canada, and Venezuela. Now, according to this U.S. Department of Energy document, which I'd rather you not see, the
World supply of liquid petroleum is running out unless you add in this huge pile of oil from Venezuela, which has extra heavy oil in place of 1.36 trillion barrels. Now that's 5 times as much as the entire reserve in Saudi Arabia. The thing is, Venezuela's oil is really expensive to pull up. The price of oil has to stay at $50 a barrel or higher for 3 decades for anyone to invest to pull up this extra heavy oil. Think that can't happen? 10 years ago, the price of oil was only $10 a barrel. Now, if the price of oil stays above $50 a barrel, then Hugo Chavez and Venezuela, not Saudi Arabia, control OPEC and the world's supply of oil. I showed Chavez the Department of Energy's surprising internal analysis of Venezuela's true oil riches. He wasn't surprised.
Tú sabes que Venezuela tiene la reserva de petróleo más grande del mundo.
Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. In the future, Venezuela won't have any more oil, it is true. But that's in the 22nd century. Venezuela has oil for 200 years.
Then Chavez made an extraordinary offer through our BBC broadcast. He would give the world unlimited oil at just $50 a barrel, 1/3 off the price set by OPEC.
Solo buscar un equilibrio.
We're trying to find an equilibrium. The price of oil could remain at the low level of $50. That's a fair price. It's not a high price.
Y ese es un precio, yo creo que justo, ¿sabe? No es un precio alto.
Had Hugo Chavez gone completely loco, giving away billions of dollars of his nation's resources?
Atención presente.
Not at all. By giving up a short-term windfall in return for a long-term minimum price, Chavez would become the Abdullah of the Americas, king of the world's oil. This is what the world's currently declared oil reserves look like, with most of the oil in the Middle East, especially Saudi Arabia. But at $50 a barrel, it becomes economic to exploit the world's vast undeclared reserves of heavy tar oil, and the picture changes radically. So the question is, why didn't George Bush, after watching our broadcast, rush right down to Venezuela, kiss Hugo Chavez on both cheeks, and accept his generous offer of oil at only $50 a barrel? I think the answer could be right here. The reserves of the 5 largest oil majors have grown by $2.36 trillion since George Bush took office. Oil company profits have risen by 353%. Oil companies don't make their profits from stability, but from instability, shocks, mayhem, war, threats of war, coups d'etats, threats of coup d'etat, threats of assassination, and assassinations are very profitable indeed. Is Hugo Chavez worried?
El acero de las espadas.
Chavez showed me the sword of Simón Bolívar, the man who liberated South America from Spanish imperialism.
Se va a convertir en polvo cósmico. Es muy grande esta espada para
This sword is too big to be used against President Bush.
The President of the United States may dismiss him as a demagogue and show-off, but for Bush, the show may be over once Chavez is crowned king of oil.
Gracias, hermano. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Cuando yo quieras devolver, no serás tú quien lo decida.